pushing that ball against the wall. And you want to progressively increase that tension, contracting between the shoulder blades, the back side of the shoulders, even a little bit down the triceps as you take the deep breath and count out. Push 1 through push 5. It's going to be important as you do this exercise that you keep your head and neck in alignment. A tendency might be to jet forward with the chin as you're pressing. So be aware of good standing alignment, and then start that second repetition. Pushing the palms, contracting back, opening up the shoulders and chest, squeezing and contracting, and counting down. Push 1 through push 5. And then you can relax against the ball.
Wow, that was very interesting, and it appeared to be quite simple. And those exercises are all illustrated on this ball.
It's for easy use. It comes with a manual, and then people can just do it right from looking at the ball themselves once they get used to it.
Right,
very
exactly.
Simple.
Well, I'm going to ask the ball to take a pounder. we have heard so often that people are afraid of being evaluated for fear of terrible news. But what is the process for a person to contact the Sweezy Institute and come in for evaluation when they know something is wrong?
Okay. So it depends the route that they're going. So if it's for osteoporosis, what they would do is they'd contact the institute, they would get an appointment and come in for a bone density examination or a DEXA. And it's a very simple procedure. They lay flat on what would be considered like an examination bed, and then you have a bar above you that just goes forward and back. Takes about 15 minutes.
Wow, that's
It's not invasive. Very little radiation. You get more radiation when you fly from Los Angeles to San Francisco than you would get sitting on this.
Really? That's
very
wonderful.
nice to know that.
That is good, because people do have concerns about that.
I ask this question a lot.
Now, you mentioned way at the beginning here that men get more rheumatoid arthritis than women?
No, actually women. Females
do
get
first.
more than men for
Okay.
rheumatoid
and
arthritis.
Doesn't that a lot have to do with hormonal changes that women go through after menopause and on?
Well, for rheumatoid arthritis, it can happen almost at any age. There is a subset of people which get it, the majority of them in their 20s and 30s and 40s, but then there's an older segment that can get it in their 50s and 60s. But things like osteoporosis is, I think, what you might have been referring
to. Right, that's the one.
Yeah, can happen more commonly to women after they go in menopause. Their estrogen levels decrease, and the first 7 years after menopause, there's almost a 20% loss in bone density.
Wow.
So it's really imperative at this time to go get checked with DEXA for a bone density examination to see where you sit at and what you need to do.
Right. I can think of so many times, Granny Grace lived with us in the house, and watching those physical changes, the shrinkage and suddenly the back that was bowed, and watching those changes.
So it's very interesting. Osteoporosis can a lot of times be a silent disease of where we don't see anything or know what's happening until a fracture or a break occurs in the spine. Other times there can be physical manifestations of compression fractures, or what you had talked about, the hunched over feel where you get the back that's bowed, where the patient becomes kyphotic. And this interferes with their daily life. If you can imagine, you're hunched over and your diaphragm is then being pushed in a different direction. You have more problems breathing because you're in this position. You're walking with a forward gait, so you're walking different, and there's more probability of falling.
And falls they're just
and they're already
deadly
there.
thing.
So osteoporosis affects a large percentage of people in more ways than they even think. If they think they don't have the disease, they might.
Are other organs involved? Is this something that sort of spreads when you said systemic? Is it something that would affect, I don't know, hearing, balance?
Well, osteoporosis affects the bones because it's for weak bones. But when a patient starts to hunch over, it can affect their breathing.
I see.
So there might be secondary consequences because of the bones becoming broken with compression fractures or a hip fracture. A patient might be bed-bound, then they lose muscle mass, and other things happened.
Well, now the term we used was musculoskeletal, so I'm assuming muscles are involved here as well as they attach to the joints. Are those the parts of like the pain puzzle that we go through?
So a lot of the diseases that I take care of, rheumatology encompasses musculoskeletal diseases.
I see,
so
okay.
the joints is where arthritis or osteoporosis occurs. And then we get a lot of other issues with muscles themselves, of where they become inflamed
yes.
or muscles attached to joints by tendons, and we can get a tendinitis if you've ever heard that word.
Oh, yes, I have.
So this all encompasses the musculoskeletal system. So people can have areas of pain that are next to the joint, like a tendinitis or an inflamed muscle or a bursitis, and these can be overuse injuries or things like this.
You know, it almost sounds like we're talking about the post-football weekend injury report, because people are so athletic these days, especially in their 20s, and it seems to me that they are taking some long-term risks with their joint and bone health.
Well, you absolutely do. So
Yeah.
one of the big risk factors for arthritis or tears in tendons or other things later in life is prior trauma, or athletes that are excessive athletes,
Right.
high endurance athletes.
Right, those
can hurt
extremists.
themselves. Boxers, when they're punching the bag, can hurt the base of their thumb. You
Sure.
have different athletes which can injure different areas of their body, and they're more prone to it. Kickboxers can injure their hips, if you can imagine, from kicking the bag.
What about things
early
like
on.
Little League elbow? You know, we have rules where the kids aren't allowed to pitch more
So
than a
there's
few
tennis
innings.
elbow
Yeah,
and
right.
a golfer's elbow, and people can get this. And I have a lot of men that after a game of golf, they'll come to me and say, it hurts me. And so
Oh.
it was an overuse injury.
Sure.
They need to start abstaining from doing it in the way that they were doing it, or there can be other
Asking a
things that I
golfer
can help
to
with.
abstain.
A golfer who loves the golf.
Oh,
They just
exactly.
want to get back to their activities. They want to live their life and enjoy them. So we give them tips to get back.
So when you feel that twinge, now you'll have a number to call. It's up there on your screen to get a hold of the Sweezy Institute. Now our time is up for today's edition of Aging in LA. Thanks so much to our guest today, Dr. Elise Rubenstein of the Sweezy Institute. And now it's time for our feature on Aging in LA, Senior Stat Shots, where we look at statistics and information that pertain to senior citizens. And once again, we found today's statistics in the recently released LA County Seniors Count, a survey of the older adult population in Los Angeles City and County. That's about 1,300,000 people. So let's take a look at activities that seniors in the Los Angeles area are most interested in taking part in terms of activities. 47% of our senior citizens would like to be interested in recreational pursuits. 36% in educational activities. 10% would like to be involved in job training and placement. 54%, more than half, want physical exercise. 24% are interested in community involvement and volunteering. 42% like to be entertained at concerts, plays, and sports events. And 25% of seniors enjoy taking part in religious activities. Only 13% had no response to this particular question. And that's today's Senior Stat Shots. Now, you can get a copy of this report simply by going online to www.laccd.org, and that means the Los Angeles County Community and Senior Services. Then click on LA County Seniors Count, and the full report will then appear. Or you can have a copy sent to you by mail by calling 213-738-2065. That's 213-738-2065. The Los Angeles Department of Aging produces this program with City View, Channel 35, so that seniors living in Los Angeles and surrounding communities are well informed of the many issues that face them in everyday life. And also to let you know of the many services that the Department of Aging offers our senior citizens. Now, we'd like to hear from you with comments on the program, what you like, what you think can be improved, and ideas for future programs. So please give us a call. The number's right there on your screen, 213-252-4088. That's 213-252-4088. Call us with your comments and ideas, and we look forward to hearing from you. I'm Paul Peterson for the Los Angeles Department of Aging, the people here at City View, Channel 35, and all of our guests on Aging in LA. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
a disaster strikes without warning? What if life as you know it has completely turned on its head? What if everything familiar becomes anything but? Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed today.
Every day, our brave troops and their families stand up for us.
For years, we've asked so much of so few.
Now we have a chance to serve these heroes.
To give time, offer comfort, or lend a hand.
To ease the burden on a military family.
Let's honor their service by volunteering ours.
G'day, Troy McCubbin from North Hollywood. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35, our city, our channel.
Good morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to the City Council meeting for Tuesday, September 27, 2011. We're here in the John Ferraro Council Chambers, room 340 of City Hall. I want to thank Council members Parks and Perry and Zion for being here on time. That is 4 members, Mr. Alarcon as well. That is 5 members we're up to. Mr. Cardenas is excused today, but if we can have Council members Englander, Weezar, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Reyes, Rosendahl, and Wesson join us as soon as possible. We'll be able to begin the meeting as soon as we have 10 members, constituting 2/3 of our usually 15-member, now down to 14-member body, and a quorum. I want to thank members of the public who are here with us today. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules to be with us in City Hall, as well as our viewers on Channel 35, which broadcasts these meetings live throughout our city's cable system. We're also available on the internet through lacity.org, where you can watch live streaming webcasts of our council meetings and archived footage of our past council meetings. Also online at lacity.org are all of our supporting materials for any of the items that we vote on, and all supporting materials that council members read are available for the public's convenience as well. If you're not close to a television or a computer, you can always listen into these council meetings using your telephone by calling the following number. That's 213-621-CITY, 213-621-CITY, called Council Phone, and you can listen into also our committee meetings as well as our full council meeting. And finally, if you live closer to San Pedro or Van Nuys, you can watch these meetings in person in our City Hall chambers there and testify remotely, save yourself some traffic and reduce some pollution and miles on our roads by being in Van Nuys or San Pedro for these meetings. So whether it's live in our remote locations, through the internet, cable television, or your telephone, lots of different ways to follow your city council in action. I want to thank those council members who are here pursuant to council rules on time. Council members Alarcon, Koretz, Krikorian, Parks, Perry, and Zine are now all here. We are awaiting 3 more members to constitute a quorum. In the meantime, our agendas are available here in council chambers. They're also made available 72 hours in advance or 24 hours in advance for any special meeting items. Those list the items that we'll be voting on today. There are 86 different items before us. It's a very full meeting. And we also have cards for the public to make public comments. Should any of the items that are before us not have received a public comment in committee, that's automatically triggered. And for any ones that have had a public hearing already, council members can reopen that for further public comment, as is their wish and the wish of the body. With that, we will start as soon as we have 10 members. Thank you again for your patience. We are at 7 members and counting. Council members Englander, Huizar, Labange, Reyes. Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl, who has joined us. We're up to 8. Just awaiting 2 more. Mr. Wesson, Reyes, Labange, Huizar, and Englander. Thank you. Clerk, we have a quorum. Please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Englander, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Weston, Zion, Garcetti, 11 members present and quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. First order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
All right. Mr. Rosendahl moves. Mr. Reyes seconds. Without objection, those minutes will be approved. Next order of business.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Englander moves and Mr. Weezer seconds. Without objection, those will be approved as well. Since this is a Tuesday meeting, we begin with a salute to the flag. If I can ask everybody to please rise for our Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Reyes, would you be kind enough to lead us?
Thank you, Council President. It will be my honor. Will you please stand, put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Colleagues, if I can direct your attention to the agenda. We have 86 items before us, and we're going to go through the agenda now, so any items you wish to call special or that will be called special by cards in the public. First items, please.
Items 1 through 16 are Department of Building and Safety liens notice for public hearing. The Department reports that items 6, 8, 12, and 15 may be received and filed inasmuch as a lien has been paid.
Okay. We will move to receive and file those received liens. Anybody wishing to call any of those special? Now let's go ahead and open the roll.
Excuse me, Mr. President, there are cards on item number 1.
Okay, call that special for cards in the public. On 2 through 18, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next items, please. Next items, please.
Items 19 through 41 are items for which public hearings have been held. Committee reports for items 19 have been circulated, but not for item 31, so we may wish to hold that on the desk.
Yes, let's go ahead and hold that on the desk. We'll hold the 19 and 20, the commission appointees as well. Other specials, colleagues, this is 19 through 41. Mr. Rosendahl asked, I know, for 36 special, and Mr. Reyes?
I apologize, but number 17 if possible.
Okay. Sorry, which
number
one?
17
Okay.
if possible. I apologize.
I'll come back to 17 and 18 for you and Mr. Alarcon in just a moment. Any other 19 through 41 specials, Mr. Parks? Sorry?
We're holding 19, the commissioner?
Yes, the commissioners we're going to hold. So we have 21 through 41, with the exceptions of 31 and 36. Yes, Mr. Labange.
Hey, Mr. President, is there anyone here in the chambers for item 23 from LA Unified? 23, okay.
You wish to call a special, Mr. Labange?
No, that's all right.
Okay, we'll go on consent. Okay. So let's take up the balance of the items. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those are approved. Let's reconsider 17 and 18. Let's go ahead and open the roll on those, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, we'll call this special for Mr. Reyes and myself on 17 and Mr. Alarcon on number 18. Next items, please.
Items 42 through 86 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes required for consideration. Those requested to continue item 67 to January 10th, 2012.
Okay, without objection, we'll continue that till the 10th of January. If there's no objection to consideration, all of those are before us. Do we have cards from the public on any of these?
Item 43.
Okay, we'll close the other public hearings. Mr. Rosendahl, I know, also wanted to call 43 special, so we'll call that for him. Mr. Zion? 42 for Mr. Zion.
And are we up to 59 yet?
Yes, we are.
And 59.
Okay, and 59 for Mr. Zion. Any other specials, colleagues? This is 42 through 86. And we've had cards already in, but those do not trigger a public hearing, sir. We've already had hearings. All right. Anybody wishing to open any other public hearings again or specials? Seeing none, let's go ahead on the ballot. Oh, sorry, Mr. Parks.
Excuse me, Mr. President. There's also cards on items 47, 48, 49, and 78.
And sorry, Mr. Sachs, it was 55, you said? 54. There'll be a card coming on that. Okay. Call those special for cards from the public and close the other public hearings. Mr. 80 for Mr. Parks.
Did we find that
76 I'll call special. And let's go ahead and on the balance, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right, those are approved. Had a request while we have 12 members to take just before our public comment and our commissioners, which we take before public comment as well. Items number 36 and 43 together, Mr. Rosendahl. if you are ready to take that. Mr. Rosendahl? Are you ready to take items 36 and 43, sir? Okay. Would you like to? Mr. Reyes, as chair of Plum, did you want to say anything first, or? Okay, Mr. Rosendahl, well,
yes.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues, and good morning to the community that are here from the Westchester area. We have, on this particular issues, 43 and 36, it's an ordinance amended and restating development agreement with the owner of the Howard Hughes Center. There's been lots of discussions and conversations for several years with the community, and the community in Howard Hughes came to an agreement that's very exciting. There's more housing in it. There is entitlements that will last for the 15 years that are critical to move forward with this project. And the community also, as a benefit, which I'm thrilled, gets $1.8 million, $50,000 to build a beautiful landscape along Sepulveda Boulevard. The community's been working on it for many, many years, and with the cooperation and the partnership with Howard Hughes, that is also part of the agreement. We're very excited about it. And I'd like to ask the city attorney to come up and explain the development agreement that is before us, and explain to us what seems to be a developing controversy that the development agreement 3 weeks ago that was hammered out has language in there that some suggest could be taken out and the agreement could go forward. But first, I'd like to ask the city attorney to explain what the development agreement is, explain where we're seeing the controversy, and then I'm going to turn it over to the public to interact and to comment on the whole thing. Good morning.
Good morning, Councilman. Laura Cadigan, Deputy City Attorney. You had asked the general question about what a development agreement does. And generally what a development agreement does is it freezes the rights for an applicant for their development of project for a term of years. In other words, all the rules enacted at the time and all the entitlements they have received at the time of the development agreement are in place at the time the development agreement is entered into. In this place, we are amending an existing development agreement, one that was entered back in 1986. By entering into this agreement, we will extend the rights granted to the applicant back in 1986 for another 15 years.
Thank you for that.
Good morning, City Council. Good morning, Council President. Jane Usher, City Attorney. In the context of this specific development agreement, our office was called in to prepare documents over the Labor Day weekend, which we were happy to do because this project is so important. We will get 4 new parcels developed. We will redefine the uses that are allowed on those parcels. And in exchange for that, as the councilman stated, the city will receive approximately $1.8 million in street improvements in Westchester, much needed by that community. In addition, if the developer chooses to build over 600 residential units on the 4 parcels, there will be an allocation of 5% for affordable housing. So these are terrific benefits that we were delighted to help achieve. To the extent a controversy has arisen, it is news as of last night to our office. The development agreement contains a sentence requested by our office and put in with all the other sentences over the Labor Day weekend. This sentence confirms that the project has never had rights to billboards and still does not. We went the extra mile with our partners in building and safety. They pulled all the permits for all 64 plus acres. They've confirmed to us there are no billboard permits. So we're very comfortable with that sentence. And should questions arise, we can explain to the council that the issue was raised over a year ago in litigation with the city by the Howard Hughes Shopping Center. And the Howard Hughes Shopping Center at that time contended if a development agreement is silent on the subject of billboard rights, that means that the developer has billboard rights. This council has been through the billboard wars, and you know well and good that that's not the case. But this is our opportunity to confirm that in writing for the world and to keep all of our other development agreements pristine. Important too, So with that, we're prepared to answer questions.
Thank you very much for that. And Mr. President, if I could, I'd like to let the public comment questions happen at this time.
We'll move to that right now. Absolutely. Our first speaker is Arnold Sachs on that. After that is Patricia Lyon. Why don't you go first, Ms. Lyon, while Mr. Sachs is walking. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Patricia Morrison-Lyon. I'm a resident of Westchester Playa del Rey, and I'm the Planning and Land Use Chair for the Neighborhood Council of Westchester Playa. Today I'm here to ask you to support this issue. It's an amendment to the Howard Hughes Center Development Agreement that dates back to 1986. It does not make any significant changes in the existing development agreement as it pertains to trip cap, floor area limits, ratio limits, and the agreement that we made in City Council in 1986. The client has worked extremely closely with the community and has communicated very effectively with the community and gotten feedback all the way along. Specifically, they've also been very generous to increase a stipend to the community to improve Sepulveda Boulevard, which is a very blighted area and needs support to the tune of almost $2 million. These improvements will help our community. Today, I ask City Council to suspend council rules and have the ordinance directed to the mayor's office for support of this extension to the development agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Arnold Sachs is next. After that will be Cindy Hench. After Mr. Sachs. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. Only thing I can compare this to is actually some other actions that have occurred in the City Council chambers. So we've had before the City Council an agreement at LA Live with a non-binding MOU. Is that any part of this discussion? We also had before the City Council a Loyola Marymount plan where requirements under the Office of Building and Safety were transferred to Planning and Land Use Management, specifically signage rights. You heard somebody's mentioned that there's $1.8 million worth of improvements in the contract, and the last speaker just said, well, Sepulveda Boulevard needs $2 billion worth of improvements. So you're already in the hole $200,000. 5% of affordable housing? How about 5% on low-cost housing? And the billboard situation. There's a rub there. We've had problems at LA Live with billboards. We've had problems all over the city with billboards. And like I mentioned earlier, the transfer of rights at Loyola Marymount from requirements with building and safety, and as we've seen at LA Live, they had numerous meetings at LA Live for the Regency Theater, and yet building and safety wasn't involved in any of the meetings because the rights were vetted. Is there any vetting of rights in this agreement so that somewhere down the highway the public is all of a sudden stunned along the way to find out, oh, well, you know, those rights were vetted. We don't have a discussion here about this problem anymore. Thank you for your time, answers, and attention.
Thank you very much. Cindy Hench is next. After that is John Rulin.
Hi, good morning. My name is Cindy Hench. I'm the Neighborhood Council President for Westchester Playa. And I'm here today to ask you to support this motion. The developer had come to a neighborhood council, and we've heard from them several times. Our neighborhood council supported this extension of the development plan in April, and we ask that you do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. John Rulin. After that is Christina Davis. Good morning.
My name is John Rulin. I'm a resident of Westchester. I'm the president of the Westchester Streetscape Improvement Association and secretary to the Westchester Town Center bid. I want to thank the councilman for putting together this partnership of Equity Office, Westchester Streetscape Improvement, and the bid. It's been a great experience for me. As you know, thank you. As you know, sidewalks are a huge issue in the city of LA, and you have no money to repair those. But with the funding of the $1.85 million, we will repair those sidewalks. We'll take out the 50 or 60-year-old ficus trees that have caused the problem, replace them with city-approved trees, do new landscaping, and part of that money will be invested, and the interest off of that will go to help maintain the landscaping that we will have. Westchester is one of the gateways to LA. I understand a third of the 30% of the traffic that goes through Westchester is to and from the airport. So we're one of the gateways to the city of Los Angeles. We've had accidents on our sidewalks. The skateboard people love it, but the sidewalk people can't even use it. And I actually saw a mother pushing their child in a stroller in the bike lane because it was not suitable for her to walk on. So we encourage you to support this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Christina Davis is next, and after that is Mason Cheyenne. Good morning.
Good morning, council members. My name is Christina Davis. I'm the president and CEO of the LAX Coastal Area Chamber of Commerce. Today, I urge you to support this project. It's been a long time coming. We'd like to see this project come to fruition so we can see more jobs to our area. We applaud the developer for their outreach to the community, and we really look forward to this improvement to Sepulveda Boulevard, to making this a major thoroughfare to the gateway of LAX. We're very proud of the work we've done, and we hope to see this project come to your support. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mason Cheyenne? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Mason Cheyenne. I live and work in Westchester, and I'm here today as president of Westchester Vitalization Corporation and on behalf of our 20-member board to support the Equity Office Properties request to amend their development agreement and to extend the terms for additional 15 years. And I respectfully request that you support and approve the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That will close our speakers. Mr. LaBonge is our next speaker on the queue. Mr. Rosendahl, would you like to give some wrap up on that?
Mr.
Okay.
LaBonge wants to speak. I'll like to wrap it up.
Mr. LaBonge?
I apologize. I just touched the screen.
No problem. All right. Mr. Rosendahl, conclude.
Yes, if that's the end of public comment. First, I want to thank the community leaders that came here and spoke strongly the way they did about this issue. Yes. Submitted a card. Did Mr. David Voss submit a card?
I have no other ones on 43, but if you'd like to come forward, sir, you can fill out a card. And
well, it's part of.
I mean, you can speak now if you'd like, and then we'll fill out a card.
It's 4336.
Yeah, I have on neither of those, but come forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. And I want to specifically thank Mr. Rosendahl for the time, effort, and energy that he has given to trying to make this a reality. And you, as those sitting around the horseshoe, should be reminded that policy is made in this body by those of you sitting at those desks. Policy is not to be made by the city attorney's office. And with due respect here, what you heard was that the city attorney submitted language that jeopardizes this agreement. It's a couple of sentences. I've been talking to Bill about it, about the fact that these sentences should be removed. And the fact of the matter is that they were submitted not at the request of anybody in the community, not at the request of the councilman's office, not at the request of the developer, but by a unilateral action of the city attorney on something that has been negotiated now for more than a year. And they submitted that at the last second over the Labor Day weekend, and it's inappropriate for the city attorney to be making policy in that way. I am now concerned that what I hear is that the threat is that the city attorney's office is saying, if you try and remove that language, we'll refuse to sign off on it. To which my response is to you all as council people that make policy in this chamber, you all should vote to suspend Rule 38 on this action. It's your rule that requires consultation with the city attorney's office. If you vote to waive Rule 38 in this particular action, then you can vote to amend this action that's before you and remove the offensive language. Because this is already governed by state law on the Outdoor Advertising Act, and this is not to be a forum for which the city attorney wants to slide something in and make policy on billboards. We understand billboards are a big issue. This isn't the time or the place for the city attorney to be using this agreement that's been crafted with the council person's huge effort to deal with affordable housing, to deal with money for Westchester. It's not the vehicle where that should be slid in. And I know I've spoke to the councilman about the fact that he would like to see that language removed. So I would suggest that you strongly consider bringing an amendment to this to remove that language, voting to waive Rule 38, and move forward with council business and make policy from behind the horseshoe. Thank you.
Thank you. That'll close. We've missed some cards clearly. Can you make sure that we fill out the cards
on item 36 and 43.
Okay, but just if you fill one out afterwards. Go ahead, please.
My name is Alan Apshez. I'm representing the applicant, BRE. We want to thank the council office. We want to thank the city attorney's office for working with us on this, and the staff, very carefully, LADOT, planning department. This has been a long time effort. We have a project which brings about a lot of terrific benefits for the community through the residential section of Westchester, I might point out, and also allows Howard Hughes to be completed with uses that the community wants. So we'd respectfully request your approval today. Thank you very much.
They have been found. Philip Tate is the third of the missing cards. Don't worry about filling them out.
Hi, good morning. Philip Tate with Shepard Mullen, representing Pasco Property Management, Inc., who is the management company that represents the tenant and common owners of the retail center. This development agreement negotiation was a party that Pasco was not invited to. We did not have a voice at the table, even though it implicates our property. As we followed it through the public process, the Neighborhood Council, the CPC, the Plum Committee, the directions that were given to the Planning Department and the City Attorney, we had no objection to. We do object to the language that was inserted after the public scrutiny of the document. This is not about billboards or off-site signs. Those are independently controlled by the Outdoor Advertising Act, which is state law. This is about on-site advertising. This is about allowing your businesses to compete on a level playing field with the Culver City businesses across the freeway. Most importantly, this is about not allowing the city attorney to usurp your legislative function. This was a last-minute addition to the document over the Labor Day weekend. It was barely caught in time by us to know to be here today to speak on it. This process is supposed to be one that's open and transparent. Having last-minute additions that occur outside of the public view taints that transparency. This is an improper way to try to gain leverage in a litigation against someone who wasn't party to the document. It's unfair, it's improper, it's immoral. You should exercise your rights as the legislative body to remove these two sentences. You can suspend Rule 38 if the city attorney is not willing to opine on the legality of the removal of this language. It's a process that's used frequently in this chamber, and it can be done. You can do it today without compromising the DA. We greatly support this moving forward. We greatly support the public improvements. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rosendahl.
Very much, Mr. President. Would you just make a quick comment, Ms. Usher, on what you just heard from those two individuals?
Councilman, certainly the sentence that was inserted was not a matter of policy, it's a matter of law, and I can't alter the legal position of the city, which has always been development agreements offer an opportunity to a developer to have its legal rights fixed in time, but only for the topics that are specifically enumerated in the development agreement. Citywide laws of general application, such as your sign ordinance, apply to all developers, all development agreements in the city, unless they're specifically acknowledged in the development agreement and alternative rights are provided. That never happened in this case. It didn't happen in 1986. It didn't happen in 2002 when the agreement was first amended. It didn't happen in 2005 when the agreement was amended for the second time. There are no billboard permits issued for the Howard Hughes development in general or for the Promenade Shopping Center in particular. I'm sorry, Councilman, but our office did not raise this issue. This issue was raised by the shopping center over a year ago when they put forward the legal argument, it's not a good one, that silence in the development agreement means that this body has given them billboard rights. And we need to confirm that that's not been the intention, and it isn't today.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd like to go forward with a vote on that, and I ask my colleagues for unanimous support.
Okay. Any other members wishing to be heard? If not, let's go ahead and open the roll on both items, 36 and 43. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved.
Mr. President, I'd like to go forthwith to the mayor before the end of the meeting, and I ask that we suspend the council rules and have the ordinance sent to the mayor's office immediately before the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's been motion. I'll second that. Go ahead and open the roll on suspension of the rules. when items go forthwith, it's generally at the end of the meeting. For them to go during the meeting for a signature, it requires suspension of the rules. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
All right, those rules have been suspended without objection. We'll send that to the mayor for his signature as soon as the council file can be transported. Next, I'd like to take up item 17 out of order. Ms. Perry as the chair, and then Mr. Reyes, myself, will speak on it as well. Ms. Perry, on item 17.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President. Back in December, I asked for your support for the LID ordinance, or the Low Impact Development Ordinance. We understand the impacts that urbanization has on the environment, and this ordinance offers a comprehensive array of site planning, design, and pollution prevention strategies. LID essentially amends or expands the city's existing standard urban stormwater management plan. Now, last year, our council unanimously approved the LID ordinance proposal into ordinance form. The substance of this proposal has not been changed. That is why, when it came back to Energy and Environment Committee, I waived it out. And so, for the sake of consistency, I ask that we adopt this ordinance.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Mr. Reyes?
Okay.
Mr. Reyes?
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, first I want to thank Councilman Perry for her stewardship and guiding this through her committee. This ordinance has undergone a long committee process. It was one in which the environmental community and the development community had to come together and have a discussion about the future of our city. This is not always an easy discussion. I want to commend the members of the public as well as the city staff who have engaged this process from the beginning. I believe you have today an ordinance that brings the city closer to meeting its water quality goals, at the same time allows some flexibility in the toolbox, since all properties are unique in their ability to capture stormwater and the potential to revitalize communities through innovative design. Ultimately, it is this balance that creates livable and healthy cities. I am pleased that the Development Best Management Practices Handbook is moving forward. I look forward to continued innovation that allows us to better address the vast amounts of impervious surfaces in the city. As you know, I'm a big advocate for removing concrete from the river, and everywhere that can capture stormwater on site gets us one step closer to that goal. Again, I'd like to thank everyone who has contributed to their expertise in this process. I encourage you to yes vote. And colleagues, just to be very graphic here, if you imagine all the surfaces where water cannot seep through, all that water runs into our drains, into the river, and into the ocean. Now, through this handbook and through these alternate designs, we can make our surfaces permeable. The water can actually seep through the earth, go through its cleansing process, rejuvenate the aquifer, and actually start capturing the stormwater, actually bringing back ecosystems that we long destroyed 60, 80 years ago when we built cement into the canal and when we chose to give the automobile the highest priority in the city. We don't need to do that anymore. We have a strong bicycle advocacy group. We are looking at alternate modes of transportation. We're trying to get away from fossil fuels. We don't want to be dependent on coal anymore, but it begins in how we behave on a day-to-day basis. So these stormwater harvesting technologies gives us the ability to capture the stormwater, actually contain it, recycle it, send it back into our neighborhoods, green our corridors. For all those neighborhoods that are park poor, they can see green strips come to life because we have a source of water that can recycle back into our neighborhoods. We have a way to generate berms, whole buffer zones made up of trees that can oxygenize our communities. We have high levels of diabetes and asthma, lung ailments in our children because of the amount of freeways we have with all the spillover contaminants from our automobiles. And there are key areas throughout our city. We have pockets of young people who are suffering because of the lack of oxygen. So as the city grows, and it's only going to grow, the national trend is that most of the population in the U.S. will be moving into urban centers. We need to prepare now for defining where we get water and how we create mitigation in dealing with the pollution. So I want to thank my colleagues for this, Council members Jan Perry and Councilman Garcetti, and all the members of the Ad Hoc River Committee, but more importantly, the community folks who came together with the business sector to look at what is reasonable and defining the toolbox to address this very important issue. Thank you very much.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Reyes. You are also one of the people who should be thanked for this, along with our chairwoman of Energy and Environment, and a lot of folks that are out there. And I know you filled out some cards. I think we have such high volume today, we're not going to reopen the public hearing, but I do want to thank some of them by name. As many of us have talked about before, it is one of the perverse things about living in Los Angeles that we engineer water that falls to the north of us in this carefully crafted way to come to Los Angeles that we don't miss one drop of water so that we have a water supply. And yet the water that actually lands here in our own basin for too long has been engineered to quickly not only rush out to the ocean unused, but also to take all of the dirt and pollution that are on our streets and other places along with them. So that days when it rains, when we think the city is being clean, it's quite the opposite. It's the dirtiest days, and the days when we can't and shouldn't be at the beach. It is days that traditionally we have seen the worst of the city's past policies brought up literally by the water. But this has changed. It's changed because of a lot of people out here, changed from a lot of people inside, one of the most progressive bureaus of sanitation anywhere in the country. It's changed because advocacy community out in Los Angeles has been at the cutting edge of saying we can do better. I see Andy Lipkiss out there. I see Mark Gold out there. I see people who have for a long time said we can do better with the water we have, and in fact we can survive, as we've shown with 1 million more people now consuming the same amount of water today as we did almost 25 years ago through good public policy making. And I think Mr. Reyes and I, and certainly Ms. Perry and others around this horseshoe, it's some of our happiest days when we actually unpave LA, when we take the asphalt island and take it into what the land once was, in our green streets with people like Paula Daniels, who helped lead the way when she was on the Board of Public Works and is a big part responsible for this. But in the Bureau of Sanitation, I want to thank, obviously from the top, Enrique, but Adel Haj Khalil, who has done an extraordinary job, and also Alex Hulo, who have all together been the cutting-edge folks saying that Los Angeles is going to move away from the city that can't to the city that can. And the business community, who quite often would say, wait a second, we can't do this, this is going to make things more difficult. This Bureau of Sanitation and the advocacy community made this work for business, and I want to thank the business community for stepping up and realizing this actually makes sense for all of us that live here and do work here as well. So whether it's our RRP, which is our Integrative Resources Plan for all of our water, whether it's our TMDLs, which are the maximum daily pollutants we can put in our river and in our lake. You know, I drive by Echo Park Lake, which Proposition O passed, and we have drained it. And it is a painful moment for Echo Park to not have our lake there, but it's also a beautiful moment knowing that all of the toxins that for decades have sat in that body of water are going to finally be cleaned out, and we can restore the riparian habitat, we can bring back the lotuses that died off because of our own malfeasance, that we can have a city that embraces its water. And doing this here with Low Impact Development Ordinance is long overdue. It's been an extraordinary effort by everybody, and I want to thank everybody who's been involved. It's a proud day for Los Angeles, and something that I hope can inspire cities throughout the country. I ask for your unanimous vote. Thank you.
Mr. Garcetti, I have been informed by the city attorney we have 19 cards, and we have to have a public hearing on this matter. So we will hear from the people in the audience. Mr. Rosendahl, Mr. Labange, and then if colleagues permit, we can do the 19 public comments. Mr. Rosendahl.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Once again, Ed Reyes is showing the pioneer leadership in this great city that one of his many legacies will be the LA River. It's a river. It's not a hard, concreted waterway to the ocean. It's a river. And every time you take the concrete off, every time you open it up, what happens? Mother Nature comes back. The plants come back, the fish come back, the birds come back, and you actually create a beautiful natural park along that riverway. So I applaud this motion, and I look forward to it happening, and as we get older, we'll see more of that river turn into what it was before we built all that Corps of Engineer concrete. Thank you.
Mr. Labange.
Yeah, 230 years ago, Bill, just to follow up on what you're saying, and you're not listening to me, but it's okay, you're talking to a reporter. 44 people walked 9 miles from the Mission San Gabriel to the banks which became the river. and now the river is transforming, but all our ways are transforming. But the most important thing, if we could do for Los Angeles, is clean our streets better and litter less to prevent it going into the river. And sanitation, if sanitation's here, Del, Enrique, come on up there real quick. Here's the thing, I'm all for this, but I'm not for this if we're not going to improve our street cleaning. And I don't know who's here for the Board of Public Works, but if we don't keep our streets clean, all this is extra cost and more work downstream. If you get the trash before it goes into the drain, it's better. And because of our reduction and the harsh cuts that street service has taken, there's a lot of growth in the gutters now, and growth in the gutters connects it. Just real quick on how we're looking forward to street cleaning and keeping our streets clean to prevent the debris that gets into our drains and rivers and ocean.
Thank you, Councilmember Labange. Enrique Zaldivar, Director of the Bureau of Sanitation. Indeed, street sweeping is interconnected with this very ordinance. It deals with water quality. Street sweeping is the best management practice to keep our waterways clean. It's important that that be done and be done frequently and regularly. We look forward to being able to integrate street sweeping with the overall water quality initiatives of the city. However that ends up being, but we gotta be able to make it integral to water quality.
I got that. So I just want to see the word street cleaning in this ordinance somehow. So I just have a friendly amendment that the city will work to improve its street cleaning. No, why say no, Paul? I know. I understand that, but if we're not going to do it right, why not do it? And this is the one shot, okay? I'm just telling you, members, trash in the street is horrible, and unless we pick it up, it's going to get in the drains. It gets in the drains, it goes into the river. And also, too, I don't think, maybe City Attorney, you're a very focused guy. How many tickets do we issue for littering in the city? 0. So I'm just saying, I'm all for everybody, but I'm also for trying to get the streets clean. We'll come back on this. I don't want to prevent the great momentum that has come here. But you're the team. Hold on a second, Mr. President. You're the team that does the job every day. I just want to help the guys who are, and men and women are doing the drain work to prevent less work. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to applaud our staff and the members who've worked for so long on this project. It makes very little sense for this city to be dependent upon expensive imported water at the very same time that we rush our stormwater as quickly as we can out to the ocean. It makes every bit of good sense to try to retain as much stormwater as we can right here in the city so that we can use it. We import water to this city. The state is talking about building, water storage infrastructure in excess of $10 billion, most of which is for surface storage. And at the very same time, underneath my district and the others who represent the San Fernando Valley, we have 2 million acre-feet of storage capacity in the San Fernando Valley groundwater reservoir. So to keep the stormwater here, to recharge the groundwater, to remediate the contamination that we have there by using, more of our natural stormwater on site makes 100% good sense. And I think that this ordinance is a tremendous step of leadership, and it's a tremendous step towards restoring our ecosystem to a natural state that is very cost effective. There's very little cost in this, especially when you compare it to the cost of our continued dependency on imported waters and the cost of the environmental impacts, as Mr. Labange points out, of having this runoff through our streets into our inland waterways and into our oceans, where we face tremendous cost relating to that. So I strongly urge your support of this ordinance as it is. We've worked very hard to get to this point. I also think Mr. Labange's point about street clean is very important because they are related. But that is an issue for another day. I think that today we move forward with the lit ordinance and follow up with further work on how we can integrate street sweeping into that system.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. And we have 19 speakers those of you who are here to speak on this matter, we're going to give a minute to each individual. If you want to waive your time, we'd appreciate that. We have 80-plus items on the agenda. We'll read your name to the record with the organization you represent. So if you want to stand, those individuals that are here to want to waive their time, you stand. We will recognize you. Those that wish to come forward, a minute apiece on the matter. So anybody wish to waive their time? Nobody wish to waive their time? Okay. So we're going to call you forward. And as you come forward, we'll have you speak again. 1 minute per individual. First speaker is Brian Sheridan, followed by Renee Prudy, Ida Talalala, Claire Brown, or Bowen, and let's go with those folks for the first four. You get 1 minute apiece, and please stick to that time. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. My name is Brian Sheridan. I'm here with the Council for Watershed Health. And, the Council spent 7 years studying the impacts of infiltrating water. And so we fully support, based on our study, our water augmentation study, the Low Impact Development Ordinance. Based on the study, we know that capturing water isn't just safe, it actually cleans up the aquifer. And it cleans up a lot, and if these Low Impact Development Ordinance is impacted, we can capture a lot of water. The study found that capturing and infiltrating water from just a 3/4 inch storm within the Los Angeles basin could capture on average 383,000 acre feet of additional water. This represents approximately 60% of the annual water demand in the city of Los Angeles. We also know that LID can be done in ways that not only are good for the environment, but are good for beautification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Renee Prudy.
Good morning. My name is Renee Purdy, and I represent the Los Angeles Regional Water Quality Control Board. I want to let you know that the Regional Board staff has been working very closely with the city's stormwater program on the proposed LID ordinance, and we believe this ordinance will help the city make significant strides in stormwater runoff management. It will improve the quality of surface waters throughout the city and help the city meet regulatory requirements for TMDL's total maximum daily loads, and also with MS4 permit requirements. We believe that the proposed LID ordinance is consistent with the direction of the new and redevelopment provisions of the permit that we're working on right now for the MS4 discharges. And in summary, we would applaud the initiative of the city to develop this ordinance and strongly support the adoption of this ordinance today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ida Talala. I like that last name.
Talala.
Talala.
Good morning. My name is Ida Talala, and I would like to thank the many departments and staff and council members for being so helpful to bring this about. I live in Echo Park, and it is so important that we have a LID ordinance. I think the LA Times today addresses this issue. We are spending $65 million through Prop O. It is a giant step in the right direction, and I urge this council to support this ordinance. It benefits all LA communities, the LA environment, and the LA aquifer. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Claire Bowen.
Good morning, Council. My name is Deborah Kay, and I've taken Claire Bowen's time.
No. You're not going to take somebody else's time. If she's not here, then you can fill out a card. We'll hear at the appropriate time. We don't switch like that.
Is there still time
So
to
the
be
next
able to
group
do that?
will come forward. Andy Lippis, with your group, Andy, I guess you got Mark Gold with you and some other folks. If you bring them all forward, identify your names as you speak, and then take it away. Andy.
Andy Lipkiss, founder and president of Tree People. I'm here to give the time of this whole group in order to make it efficiently. We'll all just identify ourselves in support of this act. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Go ahead, sir. Your name, Mark?
Mark Golds of Heal the Bay, strongly support.
Thank you, Mark.
Melanie Winter of the River Project, strongly support.
Great, thank you.
Deborah Weinstein of Tree People in Green LA, strongly support.
Thank you.
Joe Geaver, Water Programs Manager for Surfrider Foundation. We strongly support, and I will tell you that the rest of the nation is watching, and so we hope for a good vote here today.
And we're watching you. Next one, please. Thank you.
Meredith McCarthy, Director of Programs at Gila Bay and Chair of the Green LA Urban Ecosystems Work Group. Strongly support.
Thank you.
Connor Everett, Southern California Watershed Alliance, and also Green LA Urban Ecosystems and Water. I strongly support, and I also want to thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Liz Crossan, Executive Director, Santa Monica Baykeeper. Strongly support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter Severinen.
Sir, your name again?
Peter Severinen.
All right, Peter.
Green LA and Crestview Neighborhood Association. Strongly support.
Thank you, Peter. Next.
Good morning. Corrine Mandelbaum, Freshwater Program Director for Environment Now. I just wanted to mention, in addition to the wonderful co-benefits you all have mentioned and my colleagues have mentioned today, the National Association of Utility Contractors has estimated that per $1 billion spent, invested in water infrastructure, we will create 26,000 jobs. So I congratulate you on creating more jobs today with this vote.
Thank you. Anyone else who's here on this matter? We've got your cards. Come forward, please. Ann Guyan. Ann? And Gwynn? Thank you. And Holly Schroeder? Go ahead.
Good morning, Ann Nguyen with the Central City Association. Very quickly, what is before you today is a product of over a year of careful negotiation and good discussion between all the stakeholders. It is balanced, reasonable, workable, and will not unduly disrupt the real estate industry and the city's efforts to recover from the economic downturn. This is a great example of productive collaboration between the city and the private sector, and it's a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Holly Schroeder with the Building Industry Association. As Ann said, we've been working on this a long time, and we appreciate the work of staff and Councilmember Perry's office and the Public Works Commission to respond to a lot of the concerns we had along the way. We want to see that collaboration continue because in our mind, as we move forward with real estate projects, the hard work begins now when we're looking on implementation. We still have issues to work through in terms of codes and requirements, and so there's still a lot of work, and we would very much like to work with Councilmember Labange and Krikorian on their ideas about what we do about the existing infrastructure and cleaning that up and other regional solutions, because that's where we'll get really gains. But we appreciate the collaboration and responsiveness to our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Nina Royale.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Nina Royal, and I'm on the Sunland Tujunga Land Use Committee and Sunland Tujunga's representative on the IRP. I want to congratulate and thank the Bureau of Sanitation, who for many years has included the communities to work with them to come up with ideas on how we can best retain our water. Sunland Tujunga provides a great majority of LA's fresh water. Now the key is going to be that once this is passed, which I'm sure you're going to pass it because it only makes good sense, is to make sure that the ordinance is followed through. We just had an incident last week where 3 oak trees were taken down because the proprietor of the property said he had a permit and he didn't, and Building and Safety did not ask to see it. So we've got 3 oak trees that are gone, and I really appreciate the fact that you're going to try to save the vegetation and the land use. And again, thank you very much to the Department of Sanitation.
Thank you. Next speaker is Susie Santinella.
Good morning. My name
Thank
is
you.
Susie Santalina. As an environmental engineer at Gila Bay who works on multi-benefit projects to improve water quality in South Los Angeles, and speaking for my family members who live in South LA, I just want to say that the citizens of LA have a right to clean waterways and to a clean, green city. So I strongly support the adoption of this ordinance today. Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith McCarthy. Meredith McCarthy. Edward Murphy. Edward Murphy. We'll get to you, Mr. Reyes.
Good morning, Council. My name is Edward Murphy, and I'm a resident of Los Angeles as well as an environmental educator. And on behalf of my students and on behalf of my experiences throughout the LA River and the LA region, I strongly support this passing of the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tom Williams. Dr. Williams. 1 minute, Doctor.
Of course. Dr. Tom Williams, El Sereno, Northeast LA. Also, actual practitioner right now. I'm putting in around 800 gallons of storage for my stormwater. However, this ordinance doesn't have an effective basis. All single-family dwellings will only have to comply with 25% of what a multifamily dwelling has to comply with. That is, if you have 1,000 square feet of roof, it'll generate 400 gallons, whereas this provision only will save 100 of that 400 gallons for single-family dwellings. So that's a lot of water that is lost. Why not operate the same as for multifamily? Quadruple the amount of storage that single-family dwellings have to have in order to comply with this. Elsewise, it's ineffective. Thank you.
Carolyn Mandelbaum. Mandelbaum. Claire Brown. Joe Genner. Sarah Gande. You're our final speaker, ma'am. Those are all the speakers, and you're going to conclude.
Hi, my name is Saira Gandhi, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I'm a resident here in the city of Los Angeles. I live in the Pico Union neighborhood, and I just want to end on a positive note that I strongly support the LID ordinance, and I hope that you will pass it today. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Reyes. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to ask the Planning Department representative if she can come up and express her. First, Claire and the whole team in the Planning Department worked very hard on this. At a time when 40% of the staff was being cut, they continue to focus on this, and we're juggling many different priorities. But without the Planning Department's help in codifying and making sure this is instilled within the books, this wouldn't happen today. So please.
Thank you. Deborah Cahan, Planning Department. Indeed, this is a very positive ordinance that the Planning Department definitely supports, and we have been we appreciate being included in the collaborative process. Bureau of Sanitation has been excellent in including us, and we are also furthering this with our own ordinances. For example, supporting the ability for applicants to install permeable paving in their driveways and parking lots through an ordinance that is currently making its way through the process and will be seen by council shortly, I would assume. So we have been working in tandem with the Bureau of Sanitation, and we appreciate you taking the time and letting me speak on behalf and support.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Anyone else on the queue? Mr. Englander, you had a comment on this matter?
I had one question, actually, and the question was on the effective dates on the ordinance. I think, first of all, I want to applaud Councilman Reyes for all the work and reaching out to such a broad community, particularly these tough economic times, and making sure this works with everybody in it. I think you've done a terrific job, and I wish we could do a lot more of these kinds of things together, where we enact these kinds of ordinances and spend so much time working with so many broad coalitions. Having said that, my only question is the effective date. Is the current projects that are already entitled? So my question is, if they're already entitled, at what point in the entitlement process, perhaps they've gotten their entitlements, but they haven't filed their maps, or when does that actually kick in for projects?
I believe there's a range based on the case, but if you can be a little bit more detailed on that.
Yes, Adel Hashkhalid, Assistant Director of Bureau of Sanitation. Thank you, Councilman. Actually, it's one of the issues that we dealt with the building industry, and actually what we're doing is providing exemption for all developments and redevelopments that have an entitlement in place or an application that's deemed complete before the effective date of the ordinance. So if they have an entitlement already approved, or it's in the process, or they have an application in that's deemed complete, that's the key word, is deemed complete, they will be exempted. But also we know that all developments in the city, most of the large developments, are still subject to the stormwater requirements that will basically merge into the LID. And the effective date, I think the date will be 180 days from the adoption of the ordinance. So providing 6 months of outreach to the developers and the construction industry to make sure everybody understands the requirements before we have it in place.
So I understand it clear. It'll be 6 months from the effective date of the ordinance. So the ordinance will be posted for 30 days. So in essence, it's 6 months plus another 30 days.
Exactly.
And in that time period, anybody who files for any type of entitlement and is deemed complete will also be grandfathered into that.
That's correct.
And that's what the outreach is going to be over the next 6 months.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mr. Englander. Thank you. See no one else on the queue. Mr. Reyes, Ms. Perry, ready for a vote? All right, colleagues, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Very good. Congratulations and thank you. Unanimous approval. Next item, please, Madam Clerk.
Mr. President, do you wish to go to public comment or continue with items called special?
We will go to public comment. Ms. Perry wants to reconsider number 14.
I just want to make a motion to reconsider 14 so I can continue it because the property owner is not here.
All right, number 14, open the roll for reconsideration. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Matter is now for reconsideration to continue to when?
October 4th.
October 4th. Without opposition, that's continued to October 4th.
Without objection?
Without objection.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes.
Council President, we have Mr. Joseph Halper with the Planning Commission, item 20. Out of courtesy to him, he's been here all morning. We can take him next, so we can.
We'll do that, then we'll do public comment and continue with the agenda. We don't want to keep him here all day. So we will do that. Madam Clerk, let's bring that commission nominee forward, please. I think we have a couple commissioners. Let's run through the commissioners, please. You can take the center table, sir. The center seat is the hot seat, and that's where we put you right now. You'll enjoy that for about 30 seconds. Mr. Reyes, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you for that courtesy. I'd like to show my appreciation to Mr. Joseph Halper for his contribution to the city, participating as the mayor's appointment for the West Los Angeles Area Planning Commission. And Mr. Halper, if you could just share with us a little bit about your background. I think you have a very interesting background in your experience working in the planning discipline. And second question would be, what would you like to leave behind? What's your goal in this role? Please.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm very pleased to be considered for this appointment. And my background in the planning end, I have served on the Planning Commission for Westchester County, New York, as a statutory member, and in New York City, while serving as the Commissioner of Recreation, I had a secondary duty. I was responsible for, as the chairman for a planning district in that city. In view of your second question, my whole career, about 35 years, has been as a parks administrator, and it's been I've been head of the county, LA County Department, City of Los Angeles, and some other jurisdictions. And I would hope to bring that experience to the city in this particular position.
Let me toss a hot potato at you. When we look at affordable housing in the West Side, and given this is the area that you would be reviewing, what's your perspective on allowing for affordable housing?
I know that the infill there has been pretty complete. There's not a lot of space there, but certainly the city deserves, or the citizens of the city of all economic elements deserves your attention and consideration in housing. And particularly, I'll be frank with you, I'm concerned with the homelessness situation. Veterans, particularly in the city, it's just pretty serious, and hopefully we can bring some solution to it.
Thank you, Mr. Halper. And again, I encourage and I vote, and I appreciate your stepping up for the city in this very important role.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joe Halper, you're an incredible treasure to our great city. I have the pleasure of knowing you. You live in the Palisades, and you're a good friend. One of your skills is your ability to bring people together. When you joined Post 283, which is one of the most amazing Army posts in the country for all of us who've been in the military, a veterans post, you worked with them on many issues. Your concern about homelessness, which of course I share, we have more veteran homeless, and it's a real embarrassment. Many of them are service resistant. They're difficult. I walked the beaches of Venice at 4 in the morning the other night with the police, and I met one veteran who was a POW during Vietnam. I said, come on, we'll take you to the VAs. I don't want those rules and regulations. So some of them even have that problem. But your commitment to the homeless, your commitment to the poor, your commitment to affordable housing, also your great appreciation. I've watched you do this in the Palisades. Working with people are critical. The number one issue I always ask when a project goes before the APC or goes before the ZA is, what do the local people feel about it? What do the community groups around it feel about it? What do the neighborhood councils feel about it? And you've been involved in all those aspects of community in the Palisades, and I've seen that experience. So you will bring a very rich and a lifelong experience of making a difference. And I'm thrilled that a constituent of mine will join that, and you'll make a huge difference. I just want to thank you for being who you are. And would you introduce your wife, please,
Yes.
so that we could all see her?
Thank
too?
you, Councilman. My good wife, Arlene.
Why don't you come forward, ma'am, so
Come on,
everybody
Arlene.
can
Also,
see you on national television across the globe.
She's a fabulous lady. They are what I call a dynamic duo that make a difference in all of our lives. I want to thank both of you very much. And who's that with you?
that is the lady sitting with my wife is Ellen Friedman. She's a member of the city attorney office and our neighbor.
Very good. Just stand up for a quick second.
And her husband was the chairman of our homeowners association.
Well, thank you for being neighbors and friends, and thank you both very much. And Joe, thank you for stepping up.
Thank you.
Now let's see if you can get the vote. Let's try that. Colleagues, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
You got it. Congratulations to you.
Thank you, sir.
Let's bring forth our next commission nominee. Madam Clerk.
Will be item 19.
Which one is that?
It's Mr. Rafael Bernardino, appointment to the Board of Fire and Police Pensions Commission.
A very important commission. Right, Mr. Parks? Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. We met recently. In fact, I've had two meetings with Mr. Bernardino, one prior to the committee and then recently on the committee. Why don't you just give the council an overview of your comments on your responsibilities in the sense of the fire police pension, but also let them know that you're currently a member of the Prop Q oversight, and let them know.
Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to see me this morning. My name is Rafael Bernardino.
Rafael, talk right into that mic.
I'm talking. Okay.
Pull it up right up to you.
Thank you. My name is Rafael Bernardino, and except for a time when I was in Washington at the Department of Justice, I've lived and worked in Los Angeles my entire life. I understand my role on the commission. It's very clear. It's governed by statute, and so I'll have a very clear course to follow. It is multiple. It is to ensure that the members and their beneficiaries obtain their benefits promptly. It is to minimize the city's contribution to the pensions, and also to find whatever administrative costs decrease as much as possible. So my role is very clearly laid out, and those are my responsibilities. Of course, making sure that the members receive their benefits promptly it takes precedent, but I view all of these roles as complementary and things we should do. Previously, I served on the city's Proposition Q Oversight Commission, and in that regard, I hope that I continue to reach out to the affected stakeholders to get their input and take their consideration into account as well.
Okay. And also, one of the things that always comes up with the Pension Commission, could you just comment as relates to conflict of interest, or what work you've already done to ensure there isn't conflict?
Oh, absolutely. when we were provided by the staff with the list of everyone that the pension board has contracts with and everyone that the pension board uses to administer investments, I did a conflicts check personally to make sure that I didn't have any conflicts. I had every partner at my law firm make a conflicts check and sign off that we don't have any conflicts, and we have added that into our own firm computer system to make sure that I will never have any conflicts and do avoid them by not taking on work that would be in conflict with the city or the city's interests.
Okay. And my final question, may advise the council, what is your practice, law practice, and basically you made a very good point at the committee as to who it impacts as opposed to your current assignment.
Thank you, Councilman. My practice is mostly representing businesses and business litigation, large institutions, Fortune 100 companies, and in that regard, I have training in analyzing financial issues and analyzing accounting issues and analyzing securities issues and working on behalf of clients on both sides of that issue. But I also indicated to Chief Parks and others that my father was in the union and was in the union for 50 years operating engineers, and he had to retire when he developed cancer. And so I understand from my personal level how important the benefits are to the members, and that this is a personal issue. It is not just numbers and things on an Excel spreadsheet, that I have a responsibility to them. So while I'm very comfortable working on spreadsheets and numbers, I take in mind very seriously that these are people that we have to look out for, and their interests we have to look out for.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, we received this morning the ethics report. We did not have it at committee, but it certainly appears that all of the questions have been answered, and I'd ask an aye vote to add Mr. Bernardino to the fire police pension.
Very well, thank you. No one else on the queue on that matter. Then we do have a public speaker, Arnold Sachs. Arnold Sachs is a public speaker on this matter.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. Very quickly, I believe it was last October when the city and the council were discussing pension reforms, and there was quite numerous discussions in the chambers here, and yet the police commission and the pension board raised the cost to the city of doing business. And unfortunately, I don't have the article from the LA Times, but there was a pay raise in contributions voted by the police commission after the city council, after the mayor, after discussions with all the unions about requesting contributions to the pension reform. The police commission pension board raised the amount of pension payments to the police officers. So I was just wondering on that comment, based on that story, if the city council and the mayor and goes to the unions and they have discussions in the chambers and they all cry that we can't afford to do government, what's the sense of having the discussions if the commission is going to turn around and raise the cost of contributions?
All right, that closes public comment on this nominee. Colleagues, open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Congratulations and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Council.
You have been confirmed.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Labange is now orchestrating photographs. Thank you, Mr. Labange. Our in-house photographer, Mr. Labange. Here we go. Picture time. All right, Mr. Labange, we ready to move on? Thank you. All right, next item, please. I think that's going to be public comment. Madam Clerk, how's that sound?
Yes, that's fine if that's what you
All
want.
right, let's do public comment. Phyllis Doherty, followed by John Walsh.
Good morning. Phyllis Doherty with Animal Issues Movement. Came here today for a celebration for animals that we don't very often have, and it does affect the city of Los Angeles since we reach out internationally. The China Dog Meat Festival that is held in October, and every year 10,000 dogs are publicly killed for food to celebrate an old 13th century military victory, has ended. Also, the bullfights in Barcelona will end as of January 1st, and we need to celebrate that for the entire world. On a more local level, what we can't celebrate are these banners that are still up on our shelters that stereotype, racially stereotype, and breed stereotype that African American and Latino children should have pit bulls. It's now gone up on the harbor shelter, and our harbor shelter is almost indistinguishable. Here are the banners. And I dare you to find the shelter, and in addition to that, the trees that are gone from the East Valley. The entire ecosystem has been destroyed, and here is the plan to do that. This was not an accident. Here are the pictures that show which were to be taken out by the roots, and here's how they looked afterwards. The willow trees, the pine trees that are gone. A few pepper trees have been stuck in to try to make up for them. That was a very expensive, carefully designed landscape in order to counteract the urban heat island that Mr. Reyes just discussed and provide air and greenery in the community. It was for these banners, and that's the last thing I will mention. There is no revenue being collected for these banners, which are up to 70 feet long and 20 feet high, and yet we are concerned about collecting revenue off of the trash truck signs. I think that we should have some equality. If they're going to be banners, let's make money off of them.
Thank you. Our next speaker, John Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, or you can Google us right to Walsh Confidential right here. Our Alexa world ranking is 425,000. In other words, there are only 425,000 websites on the planet with more hits than we have. Go to HollywoodHighlands.org, put in Alexa, and you will see the statistics. 425,000 out of, what, 12 million, 15 million? We want to let you know that I'm now on Facebook, and we're going to be become my friend. Zev Yaroslavsky is my friend. Come to Facebook, John. Everybody's allowed in. As far as Durkee-gate is concerned, I want to congratulate you, Mr. Zine, because according to the San Francisco Chronicle, Democratic politicians have lost more than $25 million. These are people who had Treasurer Durkee, all Democrats. However, there was one Republican, Mr. Zine, who had her, and guess what? He caught her cheating from him like that. His staff found it. He said, you cheated us out of $1,000, and he found it. Maybe we should elect you as controller, because you're obviously better at figures than any Democratic politician, including Feinstein, in the state. Durkee-gate was not Bernie Madoff. Durkee-gate was a Jack Abramoff deal. Remember Jack Abramoff? He cheated people. He tried to cheat the Florida Indian tribes, the gambling tribes. They caught him cheating $2 million on camp and contributions, and he went to prison. People are going to go to prison on Durkee-gate, and they're all going to be Democratic politicians. And Krikorian's not here. He has 21 accounts with her. Facebook me, HollywoodHighlands.org, or Walsh Confidential, straight there. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. HollywoodHighlands.org. Thank you. Free public promotion there. Mike Hunt. Mike Hunt? Mike Hunt in the audience? Michael Hunt? It says Mike Hunt here. Not here. Dr. Tom Williams. Dr. Williams. Followed by Henry Marine, Arnold Sachs, and our final speaker will come up last. Go ahead.
Good morning. Dr. Tom Williams, El Sereno, LA 32 Neighborhood Council, and one of the attendees at the Neighborhood Council Congress that was held this Saturday. A lot of people came. One of the subjects that came up in one of the workshops was Department of Public Works. And how much are they going to cost us? We don't know. DWP has learned their lesson, and they're much more forward with us, giving us numbers and such, at least for 3 years. DPW wants us to give them a rate increase of 5% per year. That's not bad for solid waste. How about the sewerage? How about this? How about that? Because DWP issues a bill, but for me, 1/3 of the bill goes to DWP, the other 2/3 goes to DPW. The acronyms are difficult. What are we going to get for the money? We don't know. Prop O, $500 million, but they need $50 million a year to operate it and maintain it. And if you look at the screens, they better get started cleaning those screens because the rains are coming. The rains. Okay, we have the stormwater fee, but in order to avoid the stormwater fee increase coming through City Council, where it was defeated once, somebody got the state legislature to pass it for LA County to impose the fee. So keep the money away from the public. Neighborhood councils want to know where the money is coming from, where the money is going, and we'd highly recommend that the Office of Public Accountability be duplicated in the Department of Public Works.
Thank you, Doctor. Henry Marin, followed by Arnold Sachs. Good morning, Henry.
This body recently discovered it is illegal for public fund administrators to reduce the pay of city employees as done in MOU 35 and 62 without providing a publicly defined benefit in lieu of it. In addition, it is illegal for city and public fund administrators to withhold pay from city employees and provide it to union trusts to use on an ongoing basis in lieu of providing city employee benefits. Likewise, it is illegal for union fund administrators to accept HACLA and COLA employee funds directly or indirectly and commingle it with city union contractor funds. Likewise, it is against public and union policy to deny workers voice and vote in pay and benefit matters. Therefore, hindsight is 20/20, and you good people have been elected to put an end to this stuff and in return to providing public employees vested permanent and part-time, permanent, part, and full-time positions. Word to the wise is sufficient.
Thank you. Our final speaker, our Emic, LaJordia John. All right, Mr. Sachs, we'll take care of you. Go ahead.
Good morning, City Council members. Good morning, Angelinos. My name is Armenak Nurjanyan. I'm a liberal Democrat, and I run for the seat of California State Assembly. And I appeal to all the progressive Angelino public and all progressive Californians to support me with your generous donations. Call my cell phone number 323-445-1600 with your comments, feedbacks, and donations to my liberal cause. Actually, in terms of being Angelino for more than 14 years, and actually I very much a patriot of Greater Los Angeles city, and part of my campaign I fight against wasteful spending and public corruption. And I demand that city council members cut down their own wages, egregious wages of $178,000 in half, and give that money to surpluses to city workers to restore social justice. Because I pursue politics of social justice and legal justice and fight against corruption is paramount to my campaign. And also I addressed Mayor of Los Angeles, Mr. Villalobos, who is a Democrat, to fire Chief Financial Officer Miguel Santana for attempt to illegally privatize Los Angeles Zoo. I've been going to the Los Angeles Zoo for a long time. And I believe that city should actually raise taxes against oil producers, which is supported by 49% of Angelino voters, at least according to conservative estimate of the electoral department of the city of Los Angeles. And I believe that Mayor Villaraigosa should actually raise taxes against wealthy homeowners, oil and gas produce corporations, 50% to increase city revenues and to build more housing for working class people. I promise to also to create more jobs for Latino and Hispanic and white working class people by raising tax against oil and gas corporations and giving jobs to subcontractors to create more cellular phone service.
Thank you for your comments and for public comment period. Mr. City Attorney?
The last speaker should be admonished not to solicit campaign contributions on Channel 35.
All right, you cannot solicit campaign contributions. Thank you. Mr. Sachs?
Yes, thank you. Good morning again, or maybe it's afternoon. A lot of articles in the newspaper. I'm really kind of surprised that it wasn't brought up when all the hearings were going on regarding the latest news about the stadium development and AEG's pronouncements that they will improve the Pico Blue Line station to an upgrade to handle more passengers. Well, that certainly puts the whole vote right over the top as far as I'm concerned. I'm so glad that you voted to move forward with that project. The only question is, they may improve the size of the station, but how will they address the lack of train cars on the Blue Line? I mean, they can build a Blue Line station for 4 miles, but there's only 3 cars on the Blue Line, and they're not going to do anything to increase the number of cars on that train. And that also would include the Expo line whenever that's up and running. In addition, I'm aghast, I'm agog even, that a fire engine was used in a production of a porn movie. Thankfully, we have the moral police at the City Council who will investigate this charge, this outrage, if that's what you want to call it. The moral police at the City Council. Talk about the blind leading the blind. The only problem I see here is the fact that the fire department didn't get a fee for the use of city property in the movie. We've heard the City Council address tax breaks and tax rebates for the movie industry. And so to say that there's no point it's produced in the city of L.A., well, that's another story.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Thank you. That closes public comment for today. Madam Clerk, we have a request, a reconsideration number 57 by Mr. Wesson on behalf of Mr. Cardenas. Number 57, open the roll for reconsideration. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
And Mr. Wesson, on number 57, what was the request? We've reconsidered it, and what do we want to do with it?
Continue.
Till when?
Till tomorrow.
Till tomorrow? Thank you. So 57 will continue until tomorrow. Thank you. And also on number 14, we're going to continue number 14, I think, till next week, if I'm not mistaken. Continue that till next Tuesday, number 14. All right, next item, please.
Item 1, call special for cards.
Number 1 is John Walsh. Mr. Walsh, number 1, sir.
John Walsh, Googling at Walsh Confidential. 100% in favor of the Building and Safety Report and confirmation of lien to cover the cost of cleaning the lot at 1418 West Houston. It's very efficient. But you know why the city is very efficient? Because we have sitting right here, Mr. Zine, the only politician in the state of California to catch Kindy Durkee with her finger in the tail.
Mr. Zine, he's not talking about this item.
I know,
You
but it
don't
sounds
hear
good
him
to me.
complaining about it, do you?
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Thank you for the plug. I appreciate it. Number 1 item, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 18, call special by Councilmember Alarcon.
Mr. Alarcon, number 18, sir. Mr. Alarcon? There you go. Number 18, sir. No cards, just you. I can't see from the monitor. I can only... The monitor blocks my view of you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I called this item special not because I wanted to vote against the increase at the zoo. I'm just curious what kind of impact this would have on the notion that we've asked for an RFP to privatize the zoo. And it seems to me that we're raising fees as a private operator is, or theoretically as an alternative to the existing city service will provide the management of the zoo, and they're getting the benefit of this $2 increase. And if all we're going to do is allow a private operator to come in and take advantage of the increased fees, then why don't we just increase the fees and continue with the city workforce? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. So I believe the fees need to be increased because they're not even half of what they are at San Diego Zoo. Of course, San Diego Zoo is San Diego Zoo. That's a different thing. But nevertheless, they're not even half, and it's very expensive to operate the zoo. But I'm concerned that we, at the same time we are asking for an RFP to privatize the zoo, we're increasing the fees, which would benefit that private contractor. And it seems to me that we're not getting the proper perspective. I mean, if what we need at the zoo is merely to increase the fees, why are we privatizing? Why don't we just increase the fees?
Okay, Denise Verrett, I'm from the Zoo Department. I cannot comment on the discussion of the privatization and the RFP that is currently out there, but I can say on the fee proposal, this was a proposal that we made as part of the proposed budget process to raise revenue for the zoo, and it was a fee that was contemplated, you know, not taking the discussion of the privatization issue into consideration. We've raised the fees for the last 3 consecutive years, and the idea is coming up with a fee increase that the market can bear and stay competitive.
Yeah, that wasn't my question.
I know
thank you very much for saying you couldn't answer my question. The point, colleagues, is that it seems contradictory for us to say that we need a new management at the zoo, that it's not one of our core functions, and that's arguable, but to say that we need a new management at the zoo, and then just before we are offering an RFP, we are increasing the fees, which doesn't seem to provide the correct measure of the performance of the zoo. It complicates things. I specifically asked if we were going to keep the fees where they are when we do the RFP, and the answer was yes. But I didn't know we were going to increase them immediately following that discussion. So what's going on here, and how are we going to measure the proposals when in fact we have no experience to see if the quality of the service improves after we increase the fees? And I think we should, how are we going to do that analysis? I'm not trying to block the increased fees. I'm just trying to say we need to do a better analysis. We need to figure out how to do an analysis when we're increasing the fees midstream, if you will.
Hold on, Mr. Labange. Mr. Alarcon, you waiting for an answer?
She wants to answer my question.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Labange. I've got you on the queue, but let's get Mr. Alarcon's time so he can get the information he needs. Go ahead, please.
Terry Sauer, CAO staff. Council member, the fee increase was actually put in place for the ongoing operations of the zoo in next fiscal year. In terms of the RFP, we will be looking at we had our bidders conference yesterday. We will be looking at other proposals, other philanthropic proposals, how a potential proposer would raise money, not just through the fee structure, but also the capacity for enhanced fundraising. And that's really part of that. This is required for the ongoing operations of the zoo, regardless of who the operator is.
Council members, I agree that we need to increase the fees, but I believe this is a sham to benefit the private operation of the zoo. If we're going to do it, let's do it for the right reasons. Let's not just hand them a freebie coming in. I mean, that's wrong.
Thank you. Mr. LaBonge.
Mr. Alicante, I'm sorry we didn't get to talk. My understanding, Budget and Finance was pushing the zoo to charge for parking. And you were pushing the zoo to charge for parking. They felt the infrastructure necessary to put in a parking and pay for operations would be exceeded. If a minuscule raise was placed on ticket admissions, it would cover that and satisfy Budget and Finance. And also, I stand here today, I don't want to privatize the zoo, but we need to have a partnership in many of our areas, whether it's the zoo, our art institutions, our parks, because the money is not there anymore. So, Mr. Alicante, this is not a sham. This is a direct result of Budget and Finance. And I'm sorry that Mr. Parks is not here at the moment. He's in on other business right now.
Well, he better be here because if not, we lost a quorum.
Well, he's right out there. So, that being said, Denise, or could you explain that at all to help the council understand?
Well, as part of the budget process, there was a review of charging a parking fee at the zoo, and we did a comprehensive study. And as a result of that study, instead of charging a parking fee, we decided to increase the admission rates by $2 for a variety of reasons, including the infrastructure not being in place, other users of the parking lot that don't necessarily come to the zoo. And we felt that it would be difficult to assess a parking fee at the point of sale. So instead of having a fee for parking, we decided to increase the admissions by $2, and that is what was before the Budget and Finance Committee during the budget deliberations, and that was what was ultimately adopted by the council as part of the 2011-12 budget.
And that $2 brings the fee up to what?
That would be $16 for adults and $11 for children.
Okay.
And I believe San Diego is like $35? Or?
They're $40.
$40. So we want it. And also item number 25, which was a receive and file, notes the many school children that come throughout the city to the zoo. Please look at that report. It articulates your district attendance individually. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, Mr. Parks is here.
I know he's here, but I wanted to mention he was in
he was in the hallway, so he's here. Mr. Alicante?
Council members, I just want to reiterate, this is not an issue of increasing fees. It's an issue of increasing fees at a time that we are contemplating privatizing the zoo. And I believe that goes to the benefit of the private contractor against the interests of city workers who are already doing the job. They're not having the opportunity to get the $2 now and demonstrate what they can do with that $2. We're going to RFP. So I want you to understand that it is wrong, I believe, for us to do business in a way that hands over city operations to private contractors who will make money on this. I mean, if they're not making money on this, they wouldn't offer a bid. When we have city workers that are doing the same thing, but we're now giving them $2 to increase their service, and that doesn't make sense to me. So I'm going to vote for the increase because the zoo needs it. But I want to make sure that we are getting the correct information when the private bids come in. We're not comparing, I don't want to compare the private bids to past practice, because we're increasing the fees now, so there's going to be a different practice during this course of time, and that's what we should compare it to. Not past practice, not past need. We have a different set of numbers now, and we ought to use them and do that analysis differently.
Thank you, Mr. Alicante. Mr. LaBonge?
I disagree with the good, fine gentleman from the 7th District. This is a partnership in the forward that we're looking at that may be a not-for-profit agency, it may be an educational institute, whatever it is. But this solved Mr. Rosenthal's push to charge for parking.
All right, thank you, Mr. Labange. The matter is now before us, colleagues, on the $2 increase. On that matter, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
All right, that matter passes. And by the way, colleagues, we're down to a quorum of 10, so we need to stay here until we complete the agenda today. Next item, please.
Excuse me, Mr. President. For item 18, that ordinance will be held over for 1 week.
Very well. Ms. Perry, you have your...
31 and then
I can't hear you, Ms. Perry.
I just want to make opening remarks on it. I thought you were going to 31 and then Mr. Englander is going to speak. We heard it in committee this morning.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Ready.
Ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. The only thing I wanted to highlight, and then Mr. Englander is going to take
Can you
it from
speak
there.
up, please? It's
The
difficult.
only thing that I'm going to highlight, and then Mr. Englander is going to take it from there, since it was his motion, I was only the seconder, is we talked to the Department of Water and Power, and I asked them, because the council had given money in the past on the power reliability to do the improvements, renovations, rehabilitation of the all aspects of equipment that involve the delivery of power through the system. And I want to incorporate a protocol into the committee where we have regular reports on progress that has been made, not only on the equipment and the amount of equipment, but the geographic location. I believe Mr. Labange may have added some friendly language. And so we asked the Chief Legislative Analyst to prepare a motion so that we can start measuring our progress in a way that's public and very tangible to show the public and to educate the public where restoration has been made and how their money has been spent. So we will introduce that probably tomorrow. They're working on it today. Mr. Labange may want to add in his comments, but that was what I wanted to highlight, because I think that is a significant outcome in showing the public that their money is being spent in the way that it was intended.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Mr. Englander, we have one comment. Would you like to hear from the, and then you can take it? Dr. Williams? Dr. Tom Williams, and then we'll go to Mr. Englander, and then we're going to continue some items. So, Dr. Williams.
Good morning. Dr. Tom Williams, El Sereno, also DWP liaison for LA 32 Neighborhood Council. This is for reliability and mostly the transmission system. Where's the reliability for the distribution and delivery system? We need that also. And then, what are the criteria for reliability? How many minutes of outage? How many seconds of outage? At what costs? So give us a criterion that we can judge the cost against, because right now we can't. We don't have the criteria. We don't have the cost breakdown as far as transmission, generation, distribution, and delivery. We're concerned about the distribution and delivery because that's all of our transformers, poles, and wires. So give us more information. Specifically, also, what is reliability in the strategic plan? Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Englander, please.
Colleagues, I ask for your attention on this matter. This is a critical item. On September 8th, 2011, the largest power failure in California history occurred. 5 million people were in the dark overnight in the United States and in Mexico, left without air conditioning and triple-digit heat. 2 nuclear reactors offline, closed airports, turned streets into parking lots, and people abandoned their cars because there was no way for them to fuel and get gas. Police stations were forced to use generators and handle emergency calls. Schools, universities, and the court systems were all shut down. Businesses came to a halt. Perishable food spoiled. Trolley and train service in San Diego shut down, causing a domino effect for other cities, including Los Angeles. The skyline went dark, and there was a loss of traffic signals. One hospital was without power. Imagine that. A hospital without power for 2 hours when the backup generator failed. Sewage pumping stations failed, causing 2 million gallons of sewage to be spilled, contaminating and closing beaches. Residents were forced to boil their water to ensure its safety. This cause was determined to be an accident caused by one utility worker doing routine maintenance work near the Yuma border. The full outage was a result of 23 distinct events occurring on 5 separate power grids in a span of 11 minutes. Safeguards that utilities authorities had said had been built to prevent a cascading event of this magnitude all failed. It's critical that the Department of Water and Power assures the residents and the businesses operating in our city that it has fail-safe measures in place to prevent such occurrences from happening here in Los Angeles. The need to provide details on the system's reliability, measures in place to mitigate potential blackouts, to prevent a cascading event such as the one experienced on September 8th. So I'd like to call forward the DWP. I appreciate your consideration on this matter. I know that DWP has a PowerPoint they're going to share with us, but first I'd like to thank Ms. Perry for hearing this item in committee this morning. I'd like to propose that I second her motion when she's ready tomorrow as well, and thanks for her leadership on the committee. And if you could all turn your attention to the presentation from DWP, I think this is critically important to share with the communities throughout Los Angeles and our constituents. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Aaron Benjamin. I'm the Senior Assistant General Manager of Department of Water and Power System. And with me is Ken Silver, who's the head of our Energy Control Center and the Grid Op Manager. Mr. President, Council members, if you allow me to just go through a brief presentation and then we'll open it for questions and answers. Before I start the presentation, there's 2 definitional points that I want to make that kind of parallels or contradicts the situation that we have versus the situation that happened on September 8th. So those 2 definitions are that in California there's 5 balancing authorities, and the analogy with that is the balancing authority is equivalent to like a traffic control tower, which controls the flow of traffic coming into the area and controls the flow of traffic going out of the area. LADWP is one of the 5 balancing authorities that make up the majority of the utilities in California. Just as a reference, the California Independent System Operator, which is the largest balancing authority in California, is where the outage happened, and San Diego Gas and Electric belongs to that grid system. And I'll go through briefly on the incidences. The second distinctions that I want to make is that the LA Department of Water and Power is a vertically integrated utility, which means that we control the resources of generation and we transmit the power to our utility, and we also distribute the energy to our customers. This is different than what San Diego Gas and Electric or other utilities had when this incident happened, which will also highlight the issue of the communication between the generator, the transmission, and the distribution segments of the utility. So I'll go through quickly on what we know so far. The incident, as Councilmember Englander mentioned, was triggered in the southwest corner of the state of Arizona, and you can see the map of where the incident happened. And within 10-minute period, the outage cascaded throughout the southwest grid system, including the entire control area of the San Diego Gas and Electric, and also took out Imperial Irrigation Districts, which is the area that you see on the left side, the yellow area that you see. The LADWP system is made of about 60% of our energy used in LA comes from out-of-state resources that we have. We bring that energy to LA with the high voltage transmission lines, and as it enters the city from the northern segment, we take that energy and loop it through the city with a sub-transmission system that we have that's made for redundancy and made for reliability that we'll touch on as far as the maintenance of the system and making sure that the energy coming into the city is distributed and interruptions are minimized. The system is made, the distribution system is made of thousands of miles of cables, and we have about 320,000 wood poles, and about 80% of our system is an overhead system that brings the energy to the end user customers. Our systems in place are made to monitor, diagnose, and maintain the system to make sure that the duration and the frequency of outages are minimized. And this brings us to the power reliability expenditures that Council Member Perry mentioned. On the last 3 years or so, that we've picked up the pace on power reliability as far as replacing the old assets that we have and modernizing our system. But as we move forward, we're kind of encroaching into the reliability area where we have reduced in our current budgets the expenditure on the reliability, and we're hoping that we can correct as we move forward on and pick up the reliability, because our system is aging, and we have a lot of these redundancy that we rely on are basically becoming assets that we cannot rely on to bring power in the city. Part of the reliability that we wanted to also highlight is the resources that we have within the city limits as far as the generation that we have. This point was discussed before as a redundant generation that we have within the basin for us to make sure when imports are curtailed that we do generate internally and bring the power back to the city from the coastal units. The sequencing of these repowering that we have and modernization of the units are critical to making sure that we do have these assets that we could rely on. And if this sequencing is not taken care of, an event such as the event that happened in San Diego could occur in our system that basically, we don't have the resources that gives us that redundancy and the reliability. We've had several natural disasters, including earthquakes, and no different this last summer season. We've had fires underneath our transmission line that threatens the import of energy to LA. We do rely on our energy control center to dispatch power in a various different methods of bringing it to the city, but again, we're running these redundancies. We're eating into the layers of the reliabilities that we've built into our system, and that's something that we want to make sure that we pick up. That's the end of my presentation, and I'll open it for questions.
Thank you. Was there more to show? That's it? That's the show?
My presentation is done.
Our presentation? Mr. Englander, you're the only one up.
Yes, and I wanted to just thank you again for responding this quickly. We've got a tour set up of our staff. I encourage all my colleagues to take the same tour of the backup and redundancy systems and security systems at LADWP. I think it's absolutely critical. I've done the tour before. We're going to do it again, so we've got some new staff as well. But it's refreshing to hear that we've got a lot of these backup systems in place. Hopefully, we're not tested to the same limit as San Diego, and we've made some serious improvements, particularly just over a couple years ago when we were experiencing those waves of outages throughout the summer, and particularly in the Northwest District and the Northwest San Fernando Valley, where we had a lot of outages in upgrading the system's reliability. And so I appreciate that, and hopefully we'll hear more as soon as Ms. Perry's motion comes through fruition tomorrow as well. So thank you.
We'll be glad to.
Thank you. Mr. LaBonge.
Mr. Englander, thank you very much. Mr. Benjamin, thank you and the team. Power, know your power. I think in committee this morning when Jan Perry, our chairperson, spoke, I visioned know your power to educate the people of Los Angeles about the power system. They know a little about the history of water, a little, but all education is important because information is knowledge is power. So I think some outreach in the variety and the transformation of how the system works, generation, transmission, and distribution. You know that now, Mr. City Attorney. I taught you that. What's a power company? And because of deregulations, they broke up these other institutions. where Edison used to have generation, transmission, distributions. That was broken up. We're in a unique situation. Who else in the state has generation, transmission, and distribution?
I can't recall any utility that's vertically integrated in the state of Utah.
Vertically integrated, and then also trying to get a blend of green, a blend of what would be traditional, and then all transformation from coal to natural gas and other uses. Because of those who came in the past who developed this system, it's so important that we keep it strong. The one question I have, Mr. Englander, you could maybe look at this here. How quick was the public service sector notified from the power side in San Diego, or what would happen here if there's an event, a situation? How soon does, usually it's the fire department that gets called when there's wires down or something, you know, and then how soon do you realize it's a larger issue?
If you can imagine the event, it took about 10 minutes for this cascading event to take place. If you imagine in the control room that we have dispatchers 24/7 that monitor all these points coming into our system, and they will act to protect our system. And if there's any danger of curtailment or anything that we see on our system, we have protocol in place for notification ahead of time if we have that luxury. But most of the time, these cascading effects are very quick, and it will take down the system without having that chance. But we do have place communication system.
And in the 1994 earthquake, how fast was Los Angeles brought back up? Because did that knock power out throughout the region? You want to answer your colleague?
Yeah, we did have restored the system within 24 hours after the 1994 earthquake, and we had major damage to our system. You know, then we did have the resources.
Sylmar was destroyed, I believe. Yeah, exactly. So, Mr. Englander, thank you for bringing this up. It's real important, and for Water and Power to have this opportunity. I do have a motion, members, and Mr. Garcetti is here. Our President of Council, I ask, as Mr. Parks did, a budget day. You had all-day budget day. I think sometime in January we should have an all-day infrastructure day, to really focus on that. So we'll be back in touch, and appreciate it because it's both the water and the power side, and it's key. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. LeBon. Thank you from the representatives. Mr. Englander, anything to close? Okay. That was just information only, or do you need a vote? Mr. City Attorney? Note and filed. Okay, very well. Thank you. Note and file the information. Thank you very much for the presentation. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item 42, called special by Councilmember Zine.
Number 42, we'd like to continue that a week. All right, well, let's continue that for 1 week. 42, continued for a week. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 47, called special for cards.
Number 47, Dr. Williams. He's going to pass. Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Williams passes on number 47, colleagues. Number 47 is before us. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Thank you. And before we could continue, 25, 26, and 28 by Mr. LeBon, she'd like to reconsider 25, 26, and 28. So if we can open the roll for reconsideration of 25, 26, and 28, please open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
And there's a request to continue till Mr. LeBon's win. 1 day continuation on 25, 26, and 28 without opposition. Those will be continued to tomorrow, 25, 26, and 28. Thank you. And Mr. Rosendahl, you're waving your hand.
Privilege. Before they leave in the back of the room, could you come up for a quick second so the cameras can see you? This is the gay and lesbian seniors from the center who are spending the day here at City Hall. They were just meeting with the Department of Aging, and they just met in the mayor's conference room. We had an opportunity to chat a little bit, and these are my leaders. These are the pioneers in the gay and lesbian community, and as many of you know, as the first openly gay elected, even though there were others, they were not open at that moment. But these are the folks that set the example, provide the leadership, and inspire the youth, because they're proud of who they are, as I am proud of who I am. And I just want to welcome them to City Hall, everybody.
Thank you. You're welcome to sit down and enjoy the rest of the council meeting. Make yourself comfortable. Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl.
47 forthwith for Parks.
47. Mr. Parks wants 47 forthwith. 47 forthwith, please. Thank you. Next item, please.
48, call special for cards.
Number 48, John Walsh. Mr. Walsh, number 48.
John Walsh, Googling at Walsh Confidential. And I'd like you to know that this concerns Homeland Security. We're 100% in favor of this, and I feel very secure as it stands right now in that we have Dennis Zine up here, and Homeland Security has done an excellent job, and the amount of money spent here compared to the prison state they live in New York City, where your rights are stolen. Here in L.A., it isn't that bad as far as Homeland Security is concerned. And Alex Padilla was our mayor on 9/11. Do you remember that? HollywoodHighlands.org, praise to Dennis Zine's staff, the only politician staff in the state of California that caught Kindy Durkee with her hand in the till.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. I think that was in the nation, if not the world. Thank you very much for that plug. Appreciate it. Thank you. On that matter, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
And we have another reconsideration for Mr. Labange, number 40. Mr. Krikorian?
Forthwith on that matter.
Forthwith. Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. Forthwith. Mr. Labange has another request for reconsideration number 41, colleagues. Mr. Labange, 41, you want to reconsider it also?
Let me just see 41.
The notes you sent me.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so number 41 open for reconsideration. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
41 consider for 1 day, Mr. Labange?
Right.
1 day? Okay. For without opposition, 41 will be continued 1 day. Thank you. Okay, next item, please.
Item 49, call special for cards.
Number 49, colleagues. John Walsh. Number 49, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, Googling at Walsh Confidential. You can see the iPad this way. This should be thoroughly vetted out here. You know, you talk for hours and hours here. And of course, 50% of everything, all the talk of you is Rosendahl, Alarcon, and Labange. 50%. The other 50 is the other 12. But I want to point out, Bryan versus McPherson has, and it had to do with the use of force policy by the police, has turned everything in this city upside down, but you're going to keep quiet about this because the mayor doesn't want to talk about it. HollywoodHighlands.org. So long. Facebook me right now.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. On number 49, Mr. Parks.
I talked to the chair of the committee. We'd like this to go back to committee because what the intent of the motion was is to ask this same question of all of the law enforcement in the city, the Harbor Department, LAWA, and also General Services. And I think the wording was such that it wasn't that clear. So he said he would accept it back in committee and get the same review by the other three peace officer organizations.
So the recommendation is to send this number 49 back to committee.
Yeah.
So let's have a vote on that, colleagues. Send it back to committee, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
It's going back to committee, Public Safety Committee. Next item, please.
Item 54, call special for cards.
Number 54. Arnold Sachs. Reminds me of that old TV show, Car 54, Where Are You? 1 minute, Mr. Sachs. 1 minute on the clock for you, sir.
Yes, thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs. Two reasons I held this. One is this contract with Motorola Solutions for the radio equipment on the 9/11 customers' equipment because of the problems the county is having with its universal communication system and the contract that Motorola has called into question. But also I held this because of the 9/11 customer premise equipment system. I believe that you had a item on your agenda, or you had discussions in the chamber regarding the 9/11 911 operators and the funding, the special funding. It wasn't coming from the general services general fund, it was coming from a special fund. And so as this involves 9/11 operations, I'm wondering what the health of the special fund used to pay for the keeping the 9/11 operators whole as far as production is. What's the status of the fund used to pay those operators standing?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Matters before us, colleagues. Open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
All righty, next item, please.
Item 59, call special by Councilmember Zine.
Let's 59, recommendation for approval on that matter, colleagues. Open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Very well. Next item, please.
Item 76, call special by Councilmember Garcetti. A substitute motion has been circulated.
Number 76, move it forward. On the recommendation, Council President Garcetti, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 78, call special for cards.
Number 78. Dr. Williams, number 78.
Dr. Tom Williams from El Sereno, neighbor to Lincoln Heights. We use this road, Broadway, many, many times. A lot of commuters use it all the time. We're quite concerned regarding this particular crossing, but how about the other one at Hancock? There are two on Broadway. The problem is that DOT doesn't like them because it interferes with the commuter traffic. So we would highly recommend not only a light, but try like Portland did. One of the city council members of Portland went out to one of these crossings with a couple of motorcycle cops, and they really got enforcement. Golly gee whiz, one day and everybody knows where that particular crossing is. On Broadway, they tried to get rid of them, DOT, rather than having them interfere with the commuter traffic. So we're quite supportive of this, but it needs another one at Hancock. So, but will there be any enforcement? Maybe we could have red light cameras on crosswalks so that we could capture a little bit more revenue, because on Broadway, I think it would generate a lot of revenue because the commuters won't stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. On that matter, colleagues, open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Next item, please.
Item 80, call special by Councilmember Parks.
Mr. Parks, number 80.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I'd ask that you give us an aye vote on a renewal of a reward motion and ask the public's help on January the 13th, 2008 at 06:55 hours. Rosa Garcia, 35-year-old female Hispanic, was discovered deceased in an alley near 1504 West Florence Avenue in 77th area. To date, these detectives have been unable to identify the suspects, and that we would like to renew the reward motion of $50,000 and ask anyone that has information on this incident to contact the concerned detectives, Gerardo Vijar or Bill Rich at Criminal Gang Homicide Division at 213-485-4341. And we'd ask for a unanimous vote on this reward motion.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Parks. On that matter, open the roll, colleagues. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Rosendahl requests to be excused on October 28th and November 1st for personal business, and that meets council policy.
That is approved.
Councilmember Krikorian requests to be excused on October 28th for city business, and that meets council policy.
That is approved.
Councilmember Labange requests to be excused on November 16th and January 11th for city business, and that meets council policy.
New Year's Day, January 11th. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Labange, that is approved.
That clears the desk.
All right, colleagues, any announcements?
Things that went on in the city, and it's a great city. The triathlon was a wonderful event that cut across the city, started in Venice. Kaiser Permanente was the sponsor. It was wonderful to see people celebrate the city on Sunday.
Did you do the swim, the bike, or the run, Mr. Labange?
I did the watch.
You did the watch.
I did the
Very
watch.
well. No other announcements. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Krikorian. Mr. Krikorian hosted the President of Armenia at a lovely dinner, and also at City Hall, the Tom Bradley Room. A wonderful experience for us that attended, and I want to acknowledge Mr. Krikorian for a great reception for the President of Armenia. It was an absolute incredible experience. 1,100 people at the dinner and a very intimate lunch. Mr. Krikorian, congratulations. You did very successful representation of the City of the Angels as the first Armenian on the City Council. You showed a lot of pride and respect and dignity. It was well attended, and congratulations to you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. See, no other announcements, colleagues. Any adjourning motions? We do have adjourning motions. All please stand for adjourning motions. Adjourning motions. Mr. Rosendahl.
It's sad to say, but I was with David Herbst yesterday, and he told me that his father had passed away. His father was only 71 years old, but as he talked about the last 12 years of his father with Parkinson's disease, even though it's tragic to lose someone, in this particular case, it was almost a relief, if you can say that, but 12 years of Parkinson's disease. Born in Joliet, Illinois, on October 23, 1939, Dale graduated from a Benedictine university with a major in physics. Following graduation, he went to work at Argonne National Laboratory, one of the federal government's oldest and largest national laboratories for science and engineering research. Dale also worked for the Department of Energy and at the Hanford Nuclear Site in Richland, West Virginia, before retiring from Southern California Edison, where he served as manager of site quality assurance at the San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station in San Clemente, California. He was a 29-year resident of Mission Viejo, California. Before his 12-year struggle with Parkinson's disease, Dale enjoyed coaching his sons, sports teams, family camping trips, golfing, working as a classics car guy, including his 1929 Model A Ford, woodworking and construction balsa wood airplanes. The balsa wood airplanes was one of his major hobbies. His joy in later life was his 4 granddaughters. He's remembered as a loving husband, wonderful father, and beloved grandfather. Dale was fair and kind to everyone he met and was a devout Catholic. Dale passed away on September 22, 2011, with his family at his side. He's survived by his wife of 46 years, Jean, his 2 sons, David of Los Angeles, and his wife, Natalie, and their 3 children, Catherine, Margaret, and Elizabeth, and Michael of Mission Viejo and his wife, Cara, and their daughter, Sarah. Dale is also survived by his sister, Lynn Cassidy, and her husband, Chuck of Prickville, Wisconsin, and his 99-year-old aunt, Loretta Donnelly of San Diego, California. Dale's funeral mass will be at the Christian burial, will be celebrated on Friday, September 30th at 10:30 a.m. at St. Kilian Catholic Church, located in Mission Viejo. A reception will follow. May we respect and stand and adjourn a peace in Dale Arthur Herbst, and may he rest in peace.
Mr. Garcetti.
And if I can join you as a second on that, thank you so much for doing that. David Herbst is a truly amazing individual. I know how close he was to his father and what an amazing life he led, and for how long he suffered. So we know he's in a better place, and our thoughts are with David and the entire family. Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl.
Mr. Garcetti, I think all council members on that, Mr. Rosendahl. All members, all council members. Mr. Labange.
Members, I ask we adjourn in memory of Edward Michael Mehingan, who was a great Recreation and Parks employee for many years, helped form the municipal games. He was much loved, a natural dancer, inspirational individual who was a great UCLA booster. He was just loved by those in Recreation and Parks in his years, his career with the department. I would ask that we adjourn in memory of Edward McBrabian. Also, members, I'd like to ask you all to join me in adjourning for Dolores Hope. Dolores Hope lived to be 102, and yesterday we had her memorial at St. Charles in North Hollywood in a small chapel. And her daughter, Linda Hope, spoke of their mother. They had 4 children who were adopted. The Hopes had their parents for almost 70 years. Bob Hope, as you know, died in 2003, who lived to be 100, and Dolores was 102. She was a great advocate for St. Charles Church, among many things, and also was a support behind Bob Hope, who was really the America's comedic ambassador around the world, especially for our troops. Dolores Hope was much loved. I ask that we all join and adjourn for the memory of Dolores Hope.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Parks? All members on Ms. Hope, yes. All members. Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask that we adjourn in memory of Adicia Snowden, better known as DC, born October 1950 in Los Angeles. She was the middle of 3 children born to Verna and George Williams. She attended Transfiguration Elementary School and Our Lady of Loretto High School. After graduation, she attended LA City College. Shortly after that, she met and married Greeley Snowden, and they had 1 son, Justin. She had many talents. Her greatest achievement and fulfilling role was being the mom to Justin. Her career included jobs at Home Savings and Loans, worked also for Dr. Stratton, MD office, and finally, for the last 16 years at the Westchester Imaging Company. Adicia enjoyed cooking, baking. She was delighted with when she made quiche for her family. She enjoyed traveling, especially to St. Martin for family reunions. She embraced life, lived joyfully. She had a beautiful smile, and she wanted to share her joy of heaven. So on August 31st, 2011, she was called home. She leaves behind a legacy of her son Justin, her mom Verna, her brother Anton, and her sister Marcelina, and her aunt Alice, and a host of other relatives. Her funeral mass was September 9th, Friday, September 9th, 11 a.m. at St. Bernadette's Catholic Church.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Ms. Perry.
Very much, Mr. Chair. I want to remember Walter Backstrom, who was a labor leader and a lifelong fighter for the rights of working men and women. He passed away August 29th, 2011, after a lengthy battle with cancer. He was born in Water Valley, Mississippi, and he moved with his parents, Walter and Julia Backstrom, and his siblings to Los Angeles in 1938, settling near Central Avenue and 20th Street. He attended 20th Street Elementary School and Jefferson High School. He wore many hats and had many roles during his lifetime. He started as a refuse collector who helped build a union that was and is still a strong voice for working people here in the city of Los Angeles. And in the early 1960s, he organized a coalition of African American churches, community organizations, and businesses to protest the city's policy of allowing retired police officers with no experience in trash collection to apply for supervisory positions in the Department of Sanitation while prohibiting existing employees from applying. He fought tirelessly for the right of public employees to collective bargaining negotiation and negotiated the first employee contract in the history of the city of Los Angeles. So after he retired from SEIU Local 347, he worked in the district office of State Senator Bill Green. Later, he served as Chief of Staff to Los Angeles City Councilman Robert Farrell. Several years later, SEIU beckoned once again, and Walter became the executive director of SEIU Local 99, where he worked on behalf of LAUSD classified employees, while also fighting to develop and implement career ladders for employees so they could improve and advance their lives. It has been said that for everything a man takes with him, there is something he leaves behind. Walter Backstrom took with him the love affection, and profound gratitude that comes with a life well lived. He is survived by his wife, Michelle, his children, Tamara, and her husband, Daryl, Tyra Backstrom, Walter Backstrom, the fourth, Arnold Backstrom, siblings Ruby, and her husband, Richard, Sharon, her husband, Keith, Marion, her husband, Eugene, James, and I believe his wife, Madine, Don, and his wife, Jackie, Warner, his wife, Loretta, and Vernell Backstrom. His extended family, Kathy, and her husband, Joel, Jennifer, her husband Brooks, Desiree, her husband Peter, John and his wife Linda, a host of grandchildren, nieces, nephews, special cousins, Betty and Dr. Roy Johnson.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. All members. Any other adjourning motions, colleagues? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll. This will conclude our meeting of the LA City Council. We will return tomorrow at 10 a.m. Have a good afternoon, Los Angeles.